This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And on today's episode, we're venturing into the zone to check out the weapons of the original S.T.A.L.K.E.R games.
So-called Viper 5, which we can clearly see is in fact an MP5. And look at that, they have done what COD did, and they have cut the top off the sight. Interesting, but they did this before COD did it. Now I'm wondering if that was a weird nod to S.T.A.L.K.E.R.
Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the upcoming episode on S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Heart of Chernobyl, and if there are any other games or guns you'd like to see on the show, be sure to let us know. But without further ado, it's over to Jonathan.
I would say this interface takes me back, but I've never actually played S.T.A.L.K.E.R. But I feel at home. We've got the teacup grip going on there. It's of its time, I think. Left-hand ejection. Being Ukrainian developers, they've gone with a locally designed and produced pistol. We don't have any of that range. In fact, we don't have anything from Fort, one of the Ukrainian arms designers, manufacturers. Don't think this family of pistols has cropped up in anything else. The cases look a little long coming out of this thing. A little bit of the old slow slide syndrome, I think. The hammer's not staying cocked. I don't know if there's a double action only thing going on there, but I'm surprised to see the hammer staying down. But I'd have to look that up, or ideally get hold of one or more of these for the collection. This is Obokan, normally rendered Obokan, which is the name of a town and was the code name for the program under which the AN-94, because that's what this is, was developed. Sometimes it was used as a nickname for the rifle itself. Interestingly, apart from that difference in name, that might be a transliteration thing or something, the design looks different from the little thumbnail. The handguard's different for sure. The magazine even looks different, which is weird because the mag is just an AK-74 mag. It's the one of only 3 components on the AN-94 that is shared with an AK. Also in the text here we have, it was designed as a replacement for the outdated AKM 74/2. Feels like they're changing stuff for the sake of changing stuff, unless they were worried that Kalashnikov might sue them, or Izmash at the time might take some legal action, in which case that'd be an interesting aspect to the whole legal debate that we've had. But yeah, they've definitely changed the design. The handguard's quite different. It has left hand. I think all the guns in this game are left hand jacked. And really, it's not that close in detail to an AN-94. Bearing in mind it's flipped, the shape of the receiver is still different. It's more symmetrical than the real thing. Yeah, inspired by, not a copy of. It does reproduce pretty well the weird front and rear sights of the AN. The designers thought, this gun isn't weird enough. We need to completely redesign the sights as well. Do we have any burst mode, Dave?
I don't believe it has the hyper burst. It does limit the burst to 2 though, rather than 3, so they're at least, a nod to the hyper burst there.
I assume they would have had access to the information on how this thing works and how fast the burst is. That really is the main selling point of this thing. 2 rounds at 1800 rounds per minute to increase your chance of hitting and your lethality when you do hit. Really the only reason that this, frankly, very overcomplicated weapon exists, and to not represent that in the game I think is a shame. That looks like the SVU. Yeah, it says. It says on the screen, SVU Mark II. Not sure what the meaning of Mark II is. A more up-to-date version of the sniper rifle. Well, yes, technically. Some might say a worse version of the SVD sniper rifle. Detail of the ammunition is good. We have the different designations, the GRAU designations of the Soviet and later Russian ammunition types. I don't know to what extent that affects the terminal effect. I presume it does. At least like AP versus all versus whatever else is in the game.
Нашего завалили.
Now, this is a weird choice, which I had to look up. This is the LR300. Looks very AR-15, is very AR-15. There's some weird flappy dust cover action going on there as well. I don't think the real thing has a dust cover that does that. So, as the handguard might imply, there's something going on the real gun that isn't going on the AR-15. And that is what I will call an external piston system in place of the traditional stoner system with a gas tube. There is a rod attached to the bolt carrier, and that is given a thwack, is a technical term, and it drives the whole thing back, much like a conventional short-stroke gas piston-operated firearm. Not dissimilar to what HK did with the HK416, various others have done for reasons of reliability. So this is one of those, but it's an obscure one from about 15 years ago, I think. And then we're on to the S.A.L.K.E.R, the L85A1. So this is a left-handed L85A1, which, as some of you will know, do exist. Prototypes only, so technically not L85A1, but you get my point. The cocking handle's looking a little funky. It looks a lot like the one on the Airsoft replica, so I suspect they have got hold of that and copied that. It would have been a lot easier, let's be honest, than getting your hands on a real S.A.L.K.E.R. Overall, not bad. The only glaring issue that I see so far, apart from the cocking handle, is that it has the muzzle cover still in place over the flash suppressor. At least that's what it looks like. There is actually, or was, or is, I guess, still, now that they've got these flash hiders again, a green plastic muzzle cover, and it looks a lot like they've left that on the gun. If you shot this with the muzzle cover on, I haven't done that. Anyone who has, you can confirm. If you were to shoot this with this on the end, this would just blow off. Not so much from the small bullet passing through the end of it as the blast through the slots in the flash suppressor, shredding this thing. So that's what the cocking handle should look like. If I can get that in front of the camera for you. There we go. That profile, you can see that it's quite different here, and maybe a bit too small, and very much on the wrong side.
I don't know if you recall when we did the loadout episode of the S.A.L.K.E.R, we talked about the weapon in S.T.A.L.K.E.R and that as the weapons degrade, they can jam, but this one jams earlier and more often than the other rifles, with a nod to its reliability.
That's kind of funny but sad at the same time. That's a bit of a Hollywood pew-pew sound for me. And as with the fort we saw earlier, the hammer is staying down. And for sure on the Makarov PB, which is what this is, integrally suppressed. Conventional double action and single action trigger should stay to the rear, doesn't here. That pew-pew sound is a bit too quiet. Having said that, I haven't shot this, but it's going to be more of a pop. It's good to see this in a game. It's not a common pistol by any means, not in the West certainly. So this is ours. Just as you give you a view of the other side there. Very distinctive design, derived from the Makarov, but shares relatively few parts with it actually. And unlike some of the guns in this game, like the LR300, it's believable that this would show up in where this is. So-called Viper 5, which we can clearly see is in fact an MP5. And look at that, they have done what COD did, and they have cut the top off the sight. Interesting that they did this before COD did it. Now I'm wondering if that was a weird nod to S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Overall though, I think it's a fair bit closer to the real MP5 than the one I'm thinking of. The cocking handle is huge, or looks huge subjectively, and the bolt isn't moving, interestingly. So the cocking tube setup is modelled as a separate item, but it doesn't look like the bolt is. It doesn't move at all. And here is one of my emotional support weapons, the MP5 A3 in the same configuration as this one, except for we'll get rid of that curved magazine and we'll fit it with one of these vintage straight mags that they've modelled in the game, which does change the look of the thing. And looks a bit weird to my eyes with this later forend on it and the straight mag. which is the look they've gone for in the game. But yeah, not a bad MP5 rendition, but with a couple of weird choices. And the fact that it isn't sort of fully functional is a bit disappointing. Okay, the Tunder S14. This is, of course, the OTS-14 Groza, which we didn't have any of, and then two came along at once. And here is one of them. And it has the grenade launcher grip module installed. These came in sets with either just a pistol grip with a trigger mechanism, or this unit, which is essentially a GP25 derived launcher with a pistol grip built into this unit. So you unpin this and pin on your rifle version or your carbine version. That's what you want. But this is pretty much what's depicted here, albeit that has a polymer ribbed handguard. Ours has this black painted plywood AKS-74U upper handguard on it. But it does feel a very stalker appropriate weapon. And you switch between, this is modeled on the game gun as well. This is an export version, so it has R for rifle and GL for grenade launcher. I don't think we're modeling that here. In fact, yeah, it's set to grenade launcher there while it's firing the rifle, so it's purely cosmetic. Oh, EM1 rifle. Well, that's not the EM1 rifle I know. That appears to be a G36 buttstock, though I suppose generically that's a B&T folding stock attached to a pretty wacky sci-fi gun. I should have expected sci-fi guns in this game, but somehow I'm surprised. It has a SUSAT on it, which is weird. I don't know why it would have a NATO pattern rail. Bit of dangle there from the wires on the side. Looks cool. Would be, as the engineers say, suboptimal because it's going to snag and get ripped out. Bit of an MP5 front sight there as well, or G3. Obviously, I can't speak to the electromagnetic technology here, but it's that same old thing of we have some sort of coils accelerating a solid projectile fed from a magazine, but then we have this weird blue thing and a sort of pew sound effect. Quite a fun effect there. There's more than just the blue. When it's fired from the hip, you see the sort of disruption of the air. EM weapons, or EM acceleration weapons, Gauss guns, whatever. You certainly will see disturbance of the air. Hell, you see it with conventional projectile firearms as well. I mean, they've done the right thing there. They've got a conventional pistol grip trigger arrangement and a conventional buttstock off an existing design. There's really no reason why you would see the sort of radical, crazy-looking thumb hole, unergonomic designs that we often see on sci-fi guns. The old Protector/Striker revolver shotgun. The feed's looking a little janky there. It's like the actual port isn't open on the model, but the rounds are kind of clipping through it and then rotating. I don't think in this kind of a semi-apocalyptic setting that a questionably reliable semi-automatic, not actually semi-automatic, shotgun with limited parts availability would be a great idea. You'd be so much better off just with a sawn-off 12 gauge. RP74. Almost RPK74, but it isn't. As it says, belt fed. That is a PK. A PK as opposed to PKM, with the fluted barrel and the long flash suppressor. They've correctly, or sort of correctly, represented the non-disintegrating metal link of a PK series gun, but when you reload, the depleted links stay in place on the left side, and then you add your fresh belt, and that somehow comes out the other side, and then that bit stays in there when you open it. That's not how it works. The whole belt comes out when you open it up because it's just a continuous length of belt. It's either got cartridges in it or it hasn't. That's so weird. You take the box off and there's empty link already on it. Half of it's empty, half of it's live. They both get attached, nothing moves, and then it comes off. Even though the empty links do jiggle like they are coming out of the gun. That's very curious. Relatively new assault rifle, eh? Relatively new? If you think I'm relatively new, then yeah, this thing's as old as me, I think. The SG550. Yeah, no spring chicken. Now this is the 550 is the base full-length military rifle. It's looking a little drab compared to the greener tone of the real one here. Maybe the idea is this is new to the zone. But yeah, it's a Cold War, very much a Cold War era design. I'm not 100% sure that handguard interface is correct. Before the Picatinny rail system really took off, your grenade launcher mounting had to be proprietary, specific to each weapon. And I'm not sure if we don't have this exact model with a grenade launcher, so not sure if that's accurate. I will say I don't think the cocking handle's going far enough back, and I think that's because they've misunderstood what's going on here. It's coming back as far as the ejection opening, whereas in fact it comes all the way back through a little rubber gasket here, rubber dust cover, all the way to the back here, and then it's locked open on the empty magazine. So I think that's, yeah, you can see where they think that it only goes that far back, like a Halo rifle or something, and actually it should come all the way back. But they have modelled this feature on the bolt carrier, which is how you remove the cocking handle. Press down on that, pull out the cocking handle for disassembly. So a feature that they probably had no idea what it was for, but they've correctly modelled it on the gun. Thanks for watching, guys. Those were the guns of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series, a series that I've always wanted to play and never had. So maybe I'll finally jump on the new game that's coming out. If you've enjoyed this, please do check out our own Royal Armouries YouTube channel. We'll welcome you over there for more rambling about firearms, among other things. You can check out our website, our social media accounts, and you can even visit 3 museums here in the UK if you're able to do so. But we'll see you here again on GameSpot next week.